So we looked at physical evidence, and there's not a whole lot, but there is physical evidence for the crucifixion of Jesus. And we have a lot more to say about that kind of evidence. But today we're going to talk about something which actually is a pretty big deal and something which most people don't think too much about. Sometimes they take it as the opposite, but I hope this will help you. I want you to remember. Would you please remember this? Boy, I hope you remember this. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to just talk about historical reliability of Christ's death, talking about the criterion of embarrassment. So are the stories in the Bible about Jesus' crucifixion false? So here's the question. People say, well, Christianity is a fairy tale. It's a myth. The stories about Jesus are not true. They're just all made up. They just created these stories about Jesus and none of them are true. Of course, we understand that because obviously a person who is a materialist is never going to believe the miracles of Jesus, that obviously. So they have to say that those stories are false. And some people, because they haven't done the research, anyone who's done the research is never going to say this, but people who haven't done the actual research are going to say, well, you know, Jesus wasn't really crucified. Jesus didn't really exist. We saw some physical evidence that suggests that crucifixion is real, but let's talk about the criterion of embarrassment. And I just can say, with the main heart of Christian faith, the death of Jesus Christ for sins of the world, is that all a creation put together by early Christians? Did they make it up? Did they create this religion? And did early Christians make up the stories which talk about Jesus' sufferings? So let's move into this. We're just talking today about something real simple and straightforward, the criterion of embarrassment. But I want you to understand this. I don't want you just to hear it and then, you know, do that MCQ thing that students do. Don't really learn it, but they just kind of hear it, get through the assignment, and then they move on to the next one. I don't want you to do that. I want you to think. And so this is a thinking situation that we need to go into. Okay, so I need you to be thinking now. You need you to be thinking. If we're trying to figure out if the story is true, we should ask this question: does it sound true? I mean, this is really important. If you read a story and you say, is this story true? Well, the first thing you should ask is, does it sound true? A story is more likely to sound true if the story makes the storyteller look bad. I don't know if you've ever thought of that before, but actually, that's a pretty significant thing. If the story makes the hero of the story look bad, it's more likely to be true. So, storytellers, we've got Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. We get our stories from the 12 apostles. These are the 12 men that Jesus trained to take his teachings and to pass them on to others. So the 12 apostles are the ones that were with Jesus for 3.5 years. They knew Jesus, they loved Jesus, they followed him. He was their rabbi, he was their Lord, and whatever he said, they memorized. And these are the guys that either wrote the Gospels or helped people write the Gospels. And if the stories about the 12 apostles make them look bad, those stories are probably true. Because why would the apostles want to look bad? Why would the apostles create fake stories that make them look bad? That make you say, can I believe these guys? Because these guys are idiots. I mean, seriously, why would they do that? Or if the story that we read about makes the hero of the story look bad, why would you create a story a fake story? Why would you create a fake story and make the hero look bad? That doesn't make any sense. You want the hero to look good. You want people to believe in the hero. They're not going to follow the hero. He's a loser. So why would you have a story where the storytellers look bad and the hero looks bad? The story that has a bad-looking storyteller, a bad-looking hero, might lead some people to question whether the storyteller's message is true. The stories in the New Testament Gospels are filled with embarrassments. Filled. I just finished preaching a series. Our church just finished a series on the Gospel of Mark. Preached a lot of messages on Mark, and our pastor and one of our elders preached a lot of messages on Mark. And I'll tell you, again and again, the disciples look really bad. They just really look bad. Sometimes Jesus looks bad. There are embarrassments about Jesus Christ. There are embarrassments about the very people who wrote the Gospels. Matthew, John. Mark wrote it, but Peter dictated it. And Luke. Embarrassments about the most important early Christians. There's some real questions about these early Christians. Talking about Peter, about James, John. You go, good grief, what's going on with this? Okay, so there was an accident today, and I need you to tell me what happened in the accident. I need you to be a good witness and tell me exactly what you saw. So just tell me the story that happened, okay?
Officer, I saw the whole thing.
Oh, that's helpful.
I'm an eyewitness.
That's very helpful. A good witness?
Well, I'm a great eyewitness, actually.
Okay.
To be honest,
Good.
I watched everything carefully.
Excellent.
Well,
Okay.
I can tell you exactly what happened.
Please do. Tell me what
We
happened.
were driving down the street.
Was he being careful? Was he watching everything?
Yes, he was driving perfectly.
Wow.
He is a great driver.
So he's a good driver.
Oh, he's better than good. No, he's a great driver.
That's
yes.
wonderful. I'm glad
A
to hear
wonderful
that.
driver. I would say
Good.
he's probably the best driver I know.
Best driver. Oh, that's
Yes, yes. Very, very good driver.
Very
The very best driver.
Good.
I would say he is the very best driver.
Interesting.
And we were driving down the street.
Were you talking on your mobiles?
No, he was looking in his rearview mirror, side mirrors, looking from side to side. I would have all of my friends learn how to drive from him.
Oh, really?
Yeah, absolutely.
Are you sure he wasn't using the mobile?
No, he was watching carefully.
Oh, great.
Well, yes, I was watching him carefully because I admire him so much as a driver. Best driver I ever saw.
So tell me exactly what happened.
Well, the other driver in the pink car
Oh,
pulled right in front of him
oh dear.
illegally.
Illegally.
He wasn't looking where he was going, and he just pushed right in front of him,
Okay.
and my friend smashed into his car.
Smashed into his car. What a shame.
Oh, it was completely the other person's fault.
Other person's
Absolutely.
fault. Okay.
My friend is the best driver I've ever seen.
Yes, you
Best
said that.
driver.
Yes, you
Yep,
said that.
best.
Yes, I'm afraid I was a witness.
And why were you in the car anyway?
He's my son.
Oh, your son. That makes a difference, doesn't it?
I can tell you what was happening.
Okay, please tell me what was happening. I want to know.
Well, we were driving down the road,
Speed
and
limit?
I'm afraid that my son was driving over the speed limit. He does that sometimes.
As his father, you should have told him to slow down.
Well, to be honest, I was in a hurry to get to my office, and so I told him, go fast. And he listened to me.
Is he a good driver, would you say?
Well, he's not a great driver. He's still learning how to drive.
Still.
You know, he's been driving for 2 years,
2
but
years.
sometimes I think he's been driving for 2 weeks.
That's not very good. So not a good driver.
Well, he wasn't really looking in his mirrors.
Not looking in
No.
his mirrors. No.
He was just driving along.
Driving along. Okay.
Well, yes, I can tell you what happened.
Right, please tell me.
The person in the other car,
Okay.
he was talking on his mobile phone.
Oh!
Yes.
Okay, on his
On
mobile.
his mobile phone.
I see. Well, that
And what
changes
happened
things.
was, he did not look where he was going.
Did not look
and
where
he
he was
went
going.
too fast
Too fast.
and turned right in in front of my son.
Oh dear.
Right
Terrible.
over there.
Oh my.
And when he did that, my son saw him immediately and hit the brakes.
Okay.
Thank goodness for that.
I see.
Or else I might not be alive right
Well,
now.
it was a bad accident.
Stop the car, but not before we'd had serious damage.
So your son is not really a very good driver, is he?
No, he's not a good driver.
And he was breaking the speed limit.
Yes, he was breaking the speed limit,
Oh my goodness.
but he did not cut in front of that car.
Okay.
The other car did.
Thank you very much. I have all I need. Well, Your Honor, we have two witnesses. One says that one driver caused the accident, the other says the other driver caused the accident. Somebody's not telling the truth. There's a father and there's a doctor. Now, normally I would believe the doctor, but in this case, I don't believe him. You know why? The criterion of embarrassment. It is obvious to me that the father is telling the truth. Let me tell you why. The doctor says that the driver is the best driver he's ever seen. In fact, this driver is so good that he wishes all of his friends would learn how to drive from him. No, the driver was doing everything perfectly. He was just as good as can be. And this witness says that the other driver, the boy, was the one who caused the accident. Now, on the other side, the father admits the fact that they were speeding. He admits the fact that he was the one that caused his son to speed. He admits the fact that his son is not a very good driver. He also admits the fact that his son wasn't watching carefully. However, he says that the first driver was talking on his mobile phone and cut in front because he wasn't watching where he was going. Seems to me the father would not say those embarrassing things about his son unless they were true. I much more trust someone who tells me all of the bad parts as well as the good parts than someone who only says everything is perfect. That's the criterion of embarrassment, and I think it applies here. What do you think? Now, I know this little video is kind of silly, but it still gives you an idea that when we take evidence from witnesses, we're looking for witnesses that actually saw something and tell us what they saw rather than making up stories. And the criterion of embarrassment is an excellent way to know that that's what's going on. Let's continue. And another thing that you would never think about, but you should, the crucifixion is completely embarrassing. I mean, it's completely embarrassing. Crucifixion is the ultimate shameful death. Absolutely. You know, you're going to say, let's just create a religion. Let's have our hero of our religion be crucified. What? Nobody's going to have a religion like that. Nobody's going to make up a story that isn't true about their hero when everyone's going to say, that guy was a criminal. That guy was a loser. Because Jews saw people who were crucified as cursed by God. The Romans saw people who were crucified as evil people. They were murderers or people trying to destroy the Roman Empire. This is the criteria of embarrassment. In other words, these things are embarrassing. They're embarrassing to Christianity. They're not helpful at all. It's embarrassing to admit that your founder was executed as a criminal. And the worst kind of criminal. From the point of from a historian's point of view, if you've got a religion where your hero was shamed naked, shamed before all of Israel, before all the Romans, crucified, well, why would you ever make that up? That has to be real. And all historians will agree with it. This isn't just some historians. It's embarrassing to admit your founder was helpless to save himself. Wait, he's the son of God and he let them put nails through his wrist? Wait a minute. He was the son of God and he suffered for 6 hours on the cross? You gotta be kidding. How could the son of God do that? And as many people say, how could God allow his prophet, people who believe that Jesus is just a prophet, how could they allow God allow his prophet to suffer that kind of humiliating, shameful death. That doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense at all. And yet that's exactly what Christians say. That, from a historian's point of view, says, yeah, it probably happened. Who would make up something like that? Who would ever create a religion that says that? That doesn't make any sense at all. And furthermore, there are some really, really embarrassing things here that we have to deal with. Some really embarrassing things. For example, Jesus said to them, my soul is swallowed up in sorrow to the point of death. Remain here and stay awake with me. Going a little farther, he fell face down and prayed, my Father, if it is possible, let this cup pass from me, but not as I will, but as you will. And he said, Abba, Father, all things are possible for you. Take this cup away from me. Nevertheless, not what I will, but what you will. A hero never does that in mythology. A hero never does this. Heroes are always courageous. Here Jesus says, and he is actually asking God, don't make me do this. I'll do it if it's your will, but don't make me do it if possible. And here's what Luke says, Father, if you are willing, take this cup away from me. Nevertheless, not my will, but yours be done. It makes Jesus look weak. It makes him like he doesn't want to suffer. Why would anyone create this story unless this is what happened? Why would you make this up? Why would you ever make something up that makes Jesus look bad? I'm not saying it does make him look bad, but to a Roman it does, to a Jew it does. They're thinking, what on earth is this? What kind of a hero asks not to go to the whole point that he came for? Why would he do that? Well, because it really happened. It's the criterion of embarrassment. We see many more embarrassing stories in the Gospels. It's very unlikely that the apostles created these stories, since they super make the apostles look bad. It's also unlikely that the apostles created these stories because even these stories make Jesus Christ look bad. It's also very unlikely that Christians would continue to tell these stories, since these stories brought shame on the entire Christian's faith. It's only logical that these stories were written. The only logical way these stories were written is that they actually happen this way. This is something about the Bible. It's Old Testament and New Testament. The Bible doesn't hide the sins of its heroes. The heroes in the Bible are heroes. They are heroes. But they're not the heroes that you ever read in any other religious story, or even mythology, or adventure stories. The heroes in the Bible struggle, suffer, are weak, are shamed, are rejected. And for the apostles, they do some pretty stupid things. So what I want you to see is what we've got in the Gospels. We've got very strong evidence that these things really happen, because no one would make up stories that look so bad. And once we realize that, we realize the Gospels are not made up stories. The Gospels are incredibly far from being made up stories, because there's so many criteria of embarrassments all through the Gospels that we can say, wow, these things really happened. These stories actually happened, because they make everybody look bad. And that becomes a really interesting way to understand how we can be confident that our Gospels are actually historically accurate, because it includes the bad and the good. So something to think about.